Good day, goeiedag, Sani Bonani, and Molweni Nonke. Today is the 10th of April, it's Good Friday, and I am addressing you on behalf of Atlantic Oil, Samuel's Oil, Indian Oil, and Amatola Oil. Greetings to you and your families. I would also like to take this opportunity to wish a special Easter greeting to all our Christian brothers and sisters and anyone else who is celebrating Easter. Easter, and more specifically Good Friday, is a time of mourning as we remember and ponder the death of Jesus. Last night, the President addressed the nation and very painfully provided more reasons to mourn and be sad. I am sure that he applied his mind very carefully and that his chosen course of action to extend the lockdown period is in the best interest of all of us as a nation. Let's show our support to him and embrace this action to remain in lockdown for another 2 weeks. We must respect the need for social distancing as a means to stop the rapid spread of this deadly virus. We must also continue to take extra care of ourselves and our families by doing all we can to avoid the virus or to contribute to the spread of this virus. I know that you and your families are getting frustrated with the confinement of the lockdown. I know that you are also starting to stress about the economic impact of this action and, more importantly, the impact of the recently announced recession and the forecasted period of economic gloom that is gripping the entire world. Sadly, our group of companies has not been spared from the claws and poison of these two major issues. Like many small and medium-sized businesses, we face a very uncertain future. We are thankful to the Almighty that we are a little more economically fortunate than most other small and medium-sized businesses, in that we qualify as an essential services business. However, this benefit comes with risk. Some of our staff who are required to work in the frontline spaces face a much higher risk of being infected. I invite you to join me as we applaud and salute these dedicated men and women. We want them to know that we appreciate what they do and thank them for taking risks to keep the business moving. We include their families in this gratitude, knowing that they also make sacrifice as well for our collective benefit. In saying this, we also take a moment to remember the many healthcare workers who have not been as fortunate as our staff and who have succumbed and passed away from the deadly effects of this deadly virus. Our businesses have been around for the past 30 years in one form or another, and during those years we have faced many challenging situations. I doubt any of those challenges were as severe and as rough as what we face today. However, each time we emerge from these situations, we emerge with very little damage or very little bloodshed. This latter is mainly attributable to the fact that we stand together as a team. We stand together and we stand firm. We stand shoulder to shoulder and we overcome. I believe that this coronavirus pandemic, on the back of the economic hardships, will be another one of these experiences. We will survive it and we'll conquer. After only 2 weeks of this lockdown and the start of the economic decline, our business, like many others, faces financial distress and uncertainty. Globally, the oil industry experts are predicting a massive decline in demand for petroleum products. They expect the drop to be in the region of 90%. Yes, 90%. We have also recently experienced the biggest decline in the price of fuel in the history of the oil industry in South Africa. And we are expecting a similar drop next month. Our management team are working around the clock to monitor our own sales and to understand the direct impact on our business. Our sales team have spent the past week or so in conversations with most of our customers to make sure that we fully understand the demand forecast for our products in the next 6 months. Regrettably, the reports are as we expected. These reports align with countries that are ahead of us in terms of the management of this virus, and these reports are not good. We have used this important data to forecast our position and to work out as soon as we possibly can what we need to do to weather the storm, to minimize the damage and to avoid the business going into bankruptcy. Since the start of the lockdown, and more importantly, after the announcement of the downgrade of the country's credit rating, our sales volumes have dropped by a massive 60% on average. Our optimistic view, assuming that we do not have a third extension of the lockdown and that our economic activity resumes, we will probably settle with around 40% of our planned monthly volumes. Further bad news for our business is that we do not qualify for government assistance. This is mainly because our turnover figures are above the qualifying criteria of 50 million rand, and the fact that we form part of the essential services group who are still operating, albeit that we are operating at such low volumes. The government assistance is directed primarily at smaller entities that have zero income during this period and who cannot afford to pay creditors and staff. Examples of such companies are restaurants and the tourism industry. Secondly, the banks have declined our applications for relief of our debt repayments. So, plugging this forecasted volume, which is reduced to 40% of our plan, into our financial models for the next 6 months, reveals that in order to meet our operating costs and our financial commitments, we are going to have a cash shortfall of approximately 4.4 million rand per month. The management team and I spent some quality time in a very heated room, reviewing the various options and strategies necessary to save the business and avoid wide-scale job losses. Our thoughts and plans at this stage is to make the following cost sacrifices in order to address this cash shortfall problem. We have broken this plan into 2 parts, namely non-manpower and manpower. In terms of the non-manpower actions, the following cost directives come into effect immediately. They are broken down into 3 categories. Number 1, budgeted items that are slashed by 100%. This means that these budgets are removed completely until further notice. Firstly, leave payout. No staff applications for leave payout will be considered. Bonuses and allowance. This includes meal allowances, etc. Travel and accommodation. No staff members will be allowed to travel and stay out without my express approval. Costs relating to credit vetting. We do not anticipate any new risky business and therefore will attempt to cancel the contractual obligations we have with the supplier. Company entertainment. I'm sure I don't need to explain that. Marketing expenses. No applications or customer motivations will be considered for costs relating to marketing. Training. All training is suspended until further notice. This, however, excludes bulk driver PDP training or PDP renewals. Passenger vehicle tires. Only well-motivated requisitions will be considered. No tire expenditure will be allowed on fleet cards. Stationery. Again, only well-motivated requisitions will be considered. The company spends far too much money on stationery. HS&E costs. All these costs are slashed completely unless it's an emergency that threatens life or limb. PPE, and I understand that most of our PPE for the year has been acquired, but any other expenditure other than PPE relating to COVID-19 is banned. Any requisitions for this category must be sent directly to Nastasha in a position as financial manager. The second category, these are monthly budgets and expenses that are reduced by 50% or less. Passenger vehicle fuel. Driving around in passenger company cars is restricted to essential travel only. No non-business after-hours travel will be allowed. We will monitor this very closely. Packed vehicle repairs. Preventative maintenance items will be suspended and only urgent and important repairs carried out. Bulk vehicle tires. As a variable cost item, we expect a corresponding drop in tire costs. So as our volume has dropped to 40%, we are expecting a 60% saving in this line item. Sales commissions. The same as I've just described. Because of the massive drop in volume, we're expecting a similar drop in the sales commissions. Your sales managers will be in contact with the sales reps whose remuneration forms part of this item. Office and admin expenses. I was completely alarmed by the amount of money we spend each month on office and admin expenses. This relates to stuff like tea and coffee. Each site or office manager is to restrict the wastage and limit the expenditure to a maximum of 50% of what we're currently spending. So a lot less tea and coffee all day long. Thirdly, these items will require applications of relief from contracts for a minimum of 6-month period. We currently spend a lot of money on IR consulting. Going forward for the next 6 months, we will not make use of external consultants. All requirements in this regard must be directed to the payroll office for assistance. Printer contracts and printing. We've asked our IT hardware team to engage with our suppliers and to try and get some relief on these printers. Another area where we could possibly save is vehicle tracking, and again we will be engaging with suppliers in this regard. I am sure you will agree that the suggestions above are aggressive and is a tightening of the belt right down to the wire. Regrettably, this is necessary as we expect a cost-saving yield of 3 million rand per month for the items that I've just mentioned. The second part of our plan is a review of the manpower items. In this category, we see two opportunities. The first is a challenge to the back office team to provide a minimum of 30% manpower savings. Nastasha and her team will be engaging with this in the coming week. The second is a review of all roles and jobs with the express objective of combining certain jobs that do not provide a full day's activity or a full day's work. Thereafter, we plan on reviewing the roles that we think are not or less value adding to the organization. These considerations will take a little time and will require further consultation with workers, unions, etc. Following these consultations and taking any suggestions that might arise from these engagements into consideration, we will announce the outcomings and the possible impact on certain people's jobs. Lastly, once the above exercises are complete and we fully understand the cash savings or any shortfall, we will then consider salary sacrifices. If this becomes necessary, the proposal for salary sacrifices will be based on an equitable split. This means that employees that earn close to the minimum wage could be expected to sacrifice less, and the higher paid employees will be expected to make bigger sacrifices. The salary sacrifices will be positioned as an alternate to job losses and could possibly be for a short period or for the duration of the economic hardship we experience. Having said this, I want to reiterate that at this point, I'm simply sharing my initial thoughts and the thinking that came out of our management meeting. No firm decisions have been made as yet, other than the non-power cost savings initiatives I mentioned earlier. In conclusion, I am sorry that I'm sharing this address on a Good Friday. I hope that you will appreciate me sharing my thoughts as soon as I have contemplated them. I'm also attempting to provide leadership and direction during this difficult period. After you have digested and considered this address, I ask that you think about alternate solutions or proposals that we might not have thought about that could benefit the business. Share these ideas with your line manager, who will consolidate and forward to myself for consideration. I urge you to get these suggestions to me by the end of next week if possible. I know that this is not the ideal Easter message. I also know that by continuous dialogue and engagement, we will grow together and save our business and most of our jobs. Happy Easter, and I thank you for listening. My name is Darren Samuels.